Zara was just 12 years old, but her eyes held a sadness far older. She lived in a small, dusty village called Nambara, tucked away in East Africa, where the sun rose early and the days were filled with the sounds of chickens, laughter, and sometimes quiet pain. When Zara was only 5, her mother passed away after a long illness. That day changed everything. Her father, once warm and full of stories, slowly became distant, a man weighed down by grief and work. A year later, he married again. Her name was Mama Juma. At first, Mama Juma wore the mask of kindness. She smiled sweetly, brought Zara gifts and called her my daughter. For a moment, Zara's little heart dared to hope. Maybe things would get better. Maybe she had a new mother who truly cared. But behind Mama Juma's wide smile was something dark, something cold. The warmth in her voice faded once the wedding was over. The soft touches became sharp commands. Her hugs turned into silence and then into something worse, quiet cruelty. Zara tried to be good. She helped around the house, tried to win Mama Juma's love, but nothing was ever enough. Her stepsisters, Mama Juma's real daughters, were treated like queens, while Zara began to feel invisible, forgotten, like she didn't belong. In the heart of Nambara, surrounded by people and sunlight, Zara felt like a shadow, alone, unseen, the daughter no one talked about, the girl no one remembered. Every morning, as the rooster crowed and the village of Nambara slowly woke up, Zara's day was already beginning, not with school or cartoons, but with chores. As soon as her father walked out the front gate to go to work, Mama Juma's whole face changed. The sweet smile she wore in front of him disappeared like it was never there. Her eyes turned cold, and her voice snapped like a whip. "Get up. You have work to do," she'd say, even if Zara hadn't slept well the night before. While Mama Juma's daughters sat on the couch tapping on shiny tablets and watching cartoons, Zara was scrubbing the floors with her bare hands. She washed dishes till her fingers wrinkled, swept every corner of the house, and cooked meals she wasn't even allowed to eat first. She would stand in the kitchen, smelling the food she'd made, as the others laughed and ate without her. Sometimes she was given leftovers, sometimes nothing. Zara cleaned clothes under the hot sun, fetched heavy buckets of water from the well, and ironed clothes that weren't even hers. Her arms hurt, her back ached. But Mama Juma didn't care. If Zara slowed down or made a mistake, she'd hear, "Lazy girl, is this how you thank me for feeding you?" It didn't matter that she was only 12. In that house, she wasn't treated like a child. She was treated like a maid. Her stepsisters had toys, new dresses and birthday parties. Zara had chores, old clothes, and silence. Sometimes she stood by the window and watched other children walk to school in uniform, laughing and carrying books. She didn't even know what it felt like to sit in a classroom. She dreamed about it. She imagined raising her hand, learning new things, making friends. But every time she brought it up, Mama Juma would say, "School is not for girls like you." Zara tried not to cry. She didn't want to give Mama Juma the satisfaction, so she hid her tears and kept working. She still hoped her father would notice, would see how she was being treated. But every time he came home, Mama Juma smiled sweetly again, and Zara stayed quiet. Because if she spoke up, the punishment would only get worse. It happened so fast. One small mistake, one broken glass. Zara had been washing the dishes, her hands tired and slippery from all the soap and water. A glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Her heart jumped. She froze. She already knew what was coming. Mama Juma stormed into the kitchen, her eyes full of fire. "Stupid girl!" she screamed. Before Zara could even explain, she was grabbed by the arm, dragged across the house, through the back door, and into the backyard. There, next to the fence, stood the dog's old kennel, empty, rusty, and cold. Mama Juma shoved Zara inside like she was a stray animal. The door slammed shut with a metal click. "You'll sleep here tonight," she said with a twisted smile. "Maybe then you'll learn." That one night didn't end the next morning, or the one after that. Days passed, then weeks. Zara stayed locked in that tiny cage, curled up on the hard ground like a forgotten creature. There was no mattress, no blanket, only dirt, cold air, and silence. Flies buzzed around her. At night, mosquitoes bit her skin, and the cold made her body shiver. Sometimes Mama Juma threw her leftovers through the bars. Other times, she forgot to feed her at all. Zara whispered to herself to stay strong. She sang songs in her mind that her real mother used to hum. She counted the stars through the cracks in the kennel roof, trying not to cry too loud in case Mama Juma heard and got angrier. Nobody came. No one saw. From the outside, the house looked normal. From the front, Mama Juma smiled and waved at neighbors. But behind that smile, a child was living like an animal, punished for a broken glass. Zara started to lose hope. Her body grew weak. Her voice grew quiet. The world outside moved on, while she sat trapped behind bars in her own backyard. All she wanted was to be loved, to be treated like a child, not a mistake. But inside that kennel, she felt invisible, like she had been erased from the world. Auntie Moana had lived next door to Zara's family for years. She was the kind of neighbor who noticed things, like who left early, who came home late, and when something didn't feel right. And lately, something about Mama Juma's house made her feel deeply uneasy. She hadn't seen Zara in weeks. The other children played outside, laughed, and walked to the shops, but Zara had simply disappeared. When Auntie Moana asked, Mama Juma smiled and said, "She's visiting relatives." But that smile didn't reach her eyes. It was too perfect, too fake. One evening, Auntie Moana stood quietly near the fence and listened. That's when she heard it, a soft, broken voice whispering, "Help me." It was so faint, she almost thought she imagined it. But the next night, she heard it again. That was when she knew something was wrong. She had no proof. No one would believe her without it. So with shaking hands, she placed a small camera facing her neighbor's backyard. She prayed she was wrong. The next morning, Auntie Moana checked the footage. Her heart dropped. There on the screen was a small girl, curled up inside the dog kennel. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy, her face pale and tired. She was rocking back and forth, whispering, "Help me, someone please help me," over and over. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days, like she had forgotten what sunlight felt like. A child, locked in a cage, in broad daylight, just meters from where people were living their normal lives. Tears filled Auntie Moana's eyes. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. This wasn't just wrong, it was inhuman. She copied the footage onto her phone and showed it to a few trusted people in the village. Within hours, the video spread like wildfire. People gasped. Some cried. Others got angry. "How could this happen here?" they asked. "How could no one know?" The village that once looked the other way suddenly had its eyes wide open. Zara's voice, though small and broken, had finally been heard. And Auntie Moana, the quiet neighbor who trusted her gut, became the hero Zara never knew she had. The video was only a few minutes long, but it changed everything. A little girl, locked in a kennel, her clothes dirty, her voice soft and shaking. "Help me, please help me," she whispered into the night. That one clip, shared by Auntie Moana's niece on social media, spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Within hours, it had over 1 million views. By the next day, more than 6 million people across East Africa had seen it, and they weren't just watching, they were reacting. People were shocked, angry, heartbroken. Comments poured in from every direction. Who is this child? Where are the police? How could someone do this? Strangers who had never even met Zara started sharing the video, tagging friends, demanding answers. Soon, hashtags like #FreeZara, #JusticeForCageGirl, and #EndChildAbuseNow were trending everywhere. On Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook. Everyone wanted justice. Celebrities reposted the video. Activists started speaking out. Journalists began knocking on doors in Nambara. TV news stations played the footage with warning labels, and radio hosts begged anyone with information to call in. People cried listening to Zara's voice. Schools held moments of silence. Mothers hugged their daughters tighter. Something about her soft whisper in that small cage touched hearts around the world. Even international reporters picked up the story. One article called it "The Ugliest Secret in the Backyard." Another headline read, "Caged like a dog, the girl who moved a nation." Suddenly, Nambara wasn't just a small village anymore. It was on the global map. The pressure on local police and government grew heavy. People demanded action. "Where is Zara now?" they asked. "Is she safe?" The video had spoken louder than any words ever could. It showed a truth no one could ignore. Zara, once invisible and forgotten, was now the face of a movement. And while she still sat inside that cold kennel, not knowing what the world had seen, her voice, the tiny trembling voice that had whispered for help, was now being heard by millions. A storm was coming, and it was coming fast. The morning after the video went viral, everything changed. Before the sun had fully risen over Nambara, the sound of sirens echoed through the village. Police trucks rolled in and stopped right in front of Mama Juma's house. Neighbors peeked through windows, whispering to each other, hearts pounding. Something big was happening. And this time, it wasn't just gossip. It was real. Officers in dark uniforms jumped out of the trucks and rushed into the yard. "Police! Open the door!" they shouted. Mama Juma, caught off guard in her robe, tried to play innocent. She smiled nervously and said, "What's going on, officers?" There's been some mistake, but her fake smile didn't work this time. One officer pulled out a phone and showed her the video, the one where Zara was locked in the kennel, crying, whispering, broken. Mama Juma's face dropped. She tried to lie. "That's not real. Someone edited it. She's just being dramatic." But no one believed her. The police pushed past her and ran to the backyard. And there, just like in the video, was Zara, still in the kennel, curled up, weak and silent. One officer bent down and gently opened the metal door. "You're safe now," he said softly. Zara looked up, confused and scared, like she wasn't sure if this was real. Tears ran down her cheeks as she was lifted out. Her legs were shaky, her hands cold. But for the first time in weeks, she wasn't alone. The police wrapped her in a warm blanket and carried her to the car. Reporters had already started to gather. Cameras flashed. Microphones reached out. Everyone wanted to know, who was this girl? What had she survived? Later that evening, Zara's face appeared on national television. Not just the footage, but her real story. News anchors called it one of the worst child abuse cases the country had seen. People cried watching it. Some turned off the TV in shock. Others promised to never let something like this happen again. Zara was taken to a safe shelter, far from Mama Juma. She didn't speak much at first, but her eyes told the story. A story of pain, a story of survival, and now, finally, a story of rescue. At the shelter, Zara barely spoke. She kept her head down, her arms wrapped tightly around her small body, as if she was trying to disappear. Every loud sound made her flinch. Every touch made her pull away. She was safe now. No more cages, no more cruel voices. But inside, she still felt trapped. The fear didn't leave overnight. The damage wasn't just on her skin, it was deep in her heart. The other children tried to talk to her, but Zara stayed silent. She didn't know how to play. She didn't know how to smile. For so long her world had been about survival, not joy. But then came Lena. Lena was a young social worker with soft eyes and a warm voice. She didn't push Zara to speak. She just sat beside her. Day by day, she brought small things, a coloring book, a soft blanket, a cup of warm tea. She read her stories even when Zara didn't answer. She waited with patience, not pressure. Slowly, Zara began to look at her. Then one day, she whispered, "Thank you." It was only 2 words, but it meant the world. Lena became more than just a helper. She became a guardian angel, the first person since Zara's mother to make her feel safe again. She took Zara to therapy, where gentle voices helped her unpack the pain. They taught her how to breathe through the fear, how to trust again, how to heal. And then came a moment Zara had only dreamed of. Lena placed a school uniform in her hands. Zara looked at it with wide eyes. "Is this really for me?" she asked. Lena smiled and nodded. For the first time in her life, Zara went to school. She sat in a classroom with other children, held a pencil, opened a notebook. She learned how to write her name. She answered questions. She laughed. She still had bad days, nights when memories haunted her, moments when fear crept back in. But now, she wasn't alone. Lena was there. Her new teachers were there. And little by little, the girl who once whispered for help in a cage began to find her voice again. Not in fear, but in hope. The lights were bright. The room was full. Hundreds of young people from across Africa sat in their seats, waiting to hear the next speaker. Cameras were rolling. Journalists were watching. And then she walked onto the stage, tall, calm, and glowing with quiet power. It was Zara. She was 18 now. Her voice was steady, her shoulders strong. She wore a beautiful African dress, her hair neatly braided, and around her neck was a tiny necklace, the only thing she had left from her real mother. But it wasn't her outfit that made people stop and stare. It was her story, and her courage to tell it. Zara took a deep breath, stepped up to the microphone, and looked at the crowd. She didn't need notes. Every word came from her heart. "I was locked in a cage," she said. The room went completely silent. "I was treated like I was nothing, like I didn't matter. But I do matter. Every child matters." She paused. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. "You tried to cage me like an animal," she continued. "But now my voice is louder than your cruelty." The audience gasped. Some stood up without even thinking. Others wiped their eyes. She spoke about pain, but also about healing, about the importance of listening to children, about the millions of girls and boys still suffering in silence. She didn't speak with hate. She spoke with strength. Her voice didn't tremble. It rose like a song of survival. After the speech, people ran up to her. "You gave me hope," one girl whispered. "You're the reason I'm speaking out," said another boy. Zara hugged them all. She had once been the girl in the cage, the girl no one noticed, the girl who cried to the stars. But now, she was a voice for thousands, a symbol of strength, proof that even the darkest story can have a powerful ending. And as she stepped off the stage, the crowd stood again, clapping, cheering, some even crying. Zara smiled, not because she was famous, not because she was on TV, but because finally her voice was free and it was changing the world. When the trial began, the whole country was watching. Mama Juma walked into the courtroom with her head low, but it was too late to hide. The videos, the witnesses, Zara's quiet but powerful story, all of it was now in front of the judge. No lies could erase what she had done. The courtroom was packed. Journalists filled every corner. People waited outside, holding signs that read, "Justice for Zara and protect our children." For years, Mama Juma had fooled everyone with her fake kindness. But now, the truth was out, and the truth was loud. Zara didn't need to speak in court. Her story had already moved millions. The judge looked at Mama Juma and said, "What you did was not only cruel, it was evil." She was sentenced to many years in prison. The crowd outside cheered. Some cried. Others simply stood in silence, feeling the weight of justice finally falling into place. Mama Juma's name quickly became a symbol of shame. Parents used her as a warning. "Don't be a Mama Juma." Newspapers called her the woman who caged a child. Her face, once hidden behind sweet smiles, was now a reminder of how dangerous cruelty can be when no one is watching. But something powerful grew out of that pain. Lawmakers began talking about Zara's case. Many said, if it happened to her, it's happening to others too, especially in quiet, rural places where no one checks. That's when new laws were written. Laws to protect stepchildren, to punish hidden abuse, and to train local leaders to recognize danger signs at home. They named the new policy Zara's Law. Zara's Law made it clear, no child, whether rich or poor, step or biological, deserves to be treated with anything less than love and care. It gave children a voice. It made hiding abuse harder. It reminded the country that silence is never safety. And while Mama Juma sat behind bars, forgotten and disgraced, Zara stood tall. Her story wasn't just heard, it changed the law. From victim to warrior, her name became a symbol too. But hers was a name of hope, of justice, and of change. The story that once broke hearts in silence became a story that changed the world. Zara's life was turned into a powerful documentary called The Girl in the Kennel. It followed every step of her journey, from the pain she faced behind closed doors to the moment she stood on stage, unshaken and proud. The film didn't just tell her story, it gave voice to every child who had ever suffered in silence. People watched it and cried. Some couldn't believe something so cruel had happened to a child. Others finally found the courage to speak out about their own pain. The documentary was shown in film festivals around the world. It won awards in Kenya, South Africa, the UK, and even in Hollywood. Zara was invited to speak at events. She sat on panels with world leaders. She was no longer the girl who whispered, "Help me." She was the woman who told the world, "I survived." She wrote a book that became a bestseller. It was raw, emotional, and honest, just like her. And then she did something even bigger. She started the Zara Foundation, a safe place for abused and abandoned girls. Girls with broken pasts found healing in her shelters. They had food, warm beds, therapy, and most importantly, they had someone who truly understood. Zara proved that one cruel video didn't destroy her. It launched her. What was meant to break her became the reason she rose. From a small cage in a backyard to global stages and bright lights, Zara's journey reminded the world, even the darkest story can become a light for others.